Ready to kick us off.
Okay. Chicago, obviously, where you started out in the league, just kind of overall thoughts on them, and then play the first meeting with them, and then against your first club here.
Yeah, first time seeing Chicago. Obviously, they've had a coaching change. They've performed pretty well since that change. Been pretty difficult to beat, break down. I think we saw what they were able to do against Atlanta, down a guy. Real character, real grit. We'll see who's available. They've had a couple injuries, and so for us, it's trying to predict who they'll play with. But very organized team, really compact 4-4-2. Difficult to break down, obviously, when they have 11 guys. And we got to be mindful of Kodoko and Kamara, who are up the field, obviously. Shakir is a very good player, but they got some wingers, they got pace. So there'll be a handful. Jimenez is a good distributor. Navarro is very good in the midfield. So we're aware of them, but we have our ideas of what we want the game to look like, and we're at Q2, so utilizing the fuel inside that stadium, the energy, the intensity, make sure we start the game in a good way. It's an elimination game, so there's no room for errors, and we want to push the opponent and try to create lots of chances and create pressure.
Still early in the competition, but do elimination games have like a tad different feel than maybe say when you go to Houston?
I think any elimination game tournaments, they take on a little bit different life. With the Open Cup, you're only a couple games away from being in a position to play for a trophy, to play for Champions League. So we know if we win this game, we're at home again in the next game. So there's a big reward for us for getting through this phase. And our performances have been good the last 4 or 5 games. More goals, more consistency, tougher to score against. So there's things that we've been trying to build on as we've had absences. We're starting to get some guys back fit and healthy. So we'll have to start addressing those things as well going forward. But it's about winning and moving on, just as it was in the first game, and we're going to do our best to make it really challenging on Chicago, get our win, and move on.
On April 29th, you did something that you almost never do. You subbed a guy out at halftime, and that was Adam Lundqvist. And ever since then, he's been on a tear. Any connection between those two events, and what's happening there?
Well, I think Adam's a new player. Like any new player to our club, it does take time to acclimate to what we want to do, the ideas, certainly the methodology behind it. But we've also changed a little bit of our structure since we've lost some guys. I think we've tried to utilize now the players and their qualities, their best attributes, in the best way possible to be good offensively and defensively. And I think you've seen that with Adam. His service is in. His industrious work rate is pretty incredible. Johnny, Nicky, Hector, and Adam, it's a high volume, high running position, and it's also about service behind the line and arriving in the box. So those are things that are Adam and Johnny and Nicky are quite good at. Hector gives us a little more pause and quality, but he's taken in the information as it's gone along. I think he's delivered, and he's in a good space.
Speaking of the change of formation, in a few weeks, hopefully, you'll have Driussi back and Diego at full strength. Do you stick with the formation? Ain't broke, don't fix it? Or how do you get all those guys on the field?
Yeah, I think structures are just a starting point. Our game is about movement. It's about asking different questions. So it's the same structure that we started at the beginning of the year with, to be honest, and there's some small changes in it, but it's something that we've played with. It allows us to play in both of our identifiable offensive structures, and defensively, again, we can move right back into a 4-4-2 depending on the personnel in the field. So part of this evolution that I talked about at the beginning of the year to today is that we have the ability to change in game and dependent upon the game, the opponent, and the situation. So I like the growth, I like the development. We've obviously had to utilize some different things based on injuries and availability to players, but the players' recognition, understanding, and execution in the last 4 or 5 games have been very good.
Yeah, and then just I want to take you back to 1998 for a second. Only one of 3 teams to win both the Open Cup and MLS Cup. So what is that like to actually win that tournament and then have to get back on the horse and turn around and compete again at that high volume?
I believe the first year we won MLS Cup and then won the Open Cup the next weekend or something like that. It was on a Wednesday.
Okay.
It was
reversed, yeah.
Yeah, it was somewhere around Halloween, if I remember. This baby 98's a long time ago. But it's a big part of, again, I think now the Lamar Hunt Open Cup is a big deal. I mean, Lamar Hunt is someone, Phil Anschutz, these are guys that kept the league afloat. I think their recognition inside our sport and our country It's extremely reputable, and it's a great opportunity. Again, it's a competition now that can have you hoisting a trophy and back in Champions League. I think that's what we talk about at the beginning of the year, things that we want to be about, but it doesn't come easy, it doesn't come quickly. I think 1998 we were an expansion team, decent start, labored along the way, but the important part in our league, regardless of if there's 12 teams or 28 teams, you got to keep progressing and getting better as the season goes. You're going to have to weather some storms, you're going to have to obviously utilize your personnel based on injuries, but you got to keep getting better. You got to have some consistency, and at the end of the year, you got to be in a position to win trophies. And that revolves around making the playoffs, making a run, and then put yourself in position to win. That's regular season MLS. That's Open Cups as well. That's Leagues Cup. So we got some great opportunities ahead. But the most important thing right now is tomorrow night against Chicago and getting our win and moving forward.
And then this is Klopa's second go around as coach. I believe you intersected with him too during your time.
Yeah, Klopa's. I think I used to take his. 98. I was taking his laundry down after every training. I was the young guy. I lived with Frank for a few years. I know Frank extremely well. CJ, Zach Thornton. These are guys that I literally grew up with in Chicago. So really, really good friends of mine to this day. And I think he's coached in Chicago probably 4 or 5 times, to be honest. He's been and he's been part of many, many good runs with them. Super human being, and more than capable of being a head coach. There's no doubt about it. I think you can see what calm he brings and clarity that he's now given that team in a short time. So look forward to seeing him, and obviously look forward to competing against him.
Josh, speaking of super, which Marvel superhero do you think you connect with the most, and why?
It's a good one. I think I don't know. It's a tough one for you guys. Who's the guy? I mean, Captain America's an easy one, but
Not Groot.
Groot's cute. I think he's cute. I think that's what my daughter said when she got to see him. No, I think it's an interesting. It was interesting to see it come up. I thought it was a fantastic tifo. We'll all rally behind it. It's good to be part of something.
You get sentimental in Chicago, any of that stuff.
I get sentimental. I'd say more when I'm looking at all my kids' pictures and seeing how old I am now and how young they were. But with Chicago, do I get sentimental? Not totally. I mean, I spent 5 years there. It was the starting point. I have certainly a high regard for the organization and the time spent there. There's still some people that are there from when I was there. Obviously, Frank Lopez is one of them, but it's a competition. We're there. They're the direct opponent, and we got to do our best to knock them out. And I think I wish them well as always, but it's business as usual. It's good. They obviously will kick off in an hour or so, and hopefully he's in for that game and can keep contributing to today. So get a good result, put him in position to advance and lock up advancing and see what the third games bring. But hopefully he can see some minutes, some production, and obviously help that team move forward.
Because he's not a direct player right now. Can he dad a little bit? Is it kind of nice to step away?
There's probably you get more stress watching him from afar. I feel more calm when he's right here in my hands and we can talk to him and help him. But no, I think I'm extremely proud of him. On one hand, again, I had one son who helped that team qualify, and he didn't make it. I have one son who's made that team. He's a young player on that team, but more than capable of contributing. I think he's got what I would see is some real high potential, and that's a great environment to be in. There's some very good young players on that U.S. team. There's some very good players in that tournament, and that's what that becomes, a bit of a showcase. But being part of the team is being responsible, helping them when you're called on, helping them when you're not called on. Those are things we talked about in any environment, but for him especially when I told that group. But it's a talented team. You should get a lot of people problems, and hopefully they do their job today.
Along that line, Mikey Veras is a coach. How would you highlight him as a coach?
Offensive-minded. I think he tries to organize his team in a way that, again, utilizes the ball. You can see the structure. He's pretty flexible. Last game was 5-4-1, 5-2-3.
Yeah.
He went into a 3-2-2-3 when he had it. So, creating chances becomes, what you want, what you want, but a level of control of the game. I think that's what he was looking for. That's what he had by and large. A couple transitions with Ecuador. I mean, that's what they're known for. And, it's always going to be about how you can score goals, create pressure, and obviously kill off an opponent. Offensive-minded coach. I think he's done a good job of certainly qualifying in that first game against Ecuador.
After Owen's performance in the first game, has your phone been ringing off the hook?
Not yet. Owen has to keep performing. He's 18. Whether it's with us in the long term, whether it's somewhere else, I think those are ambitions most young players have. But the most important thing is that you're playing, you're performing. There's a consistency to it, and right now it's helping his team progress.
Might be looking a little ahead Saturday, but thoughts on rotation? Obviously, the Houston game is going to be important. It's got Tejas. Fans certainly feel that's an important one.
Yeah, we'll get through to tomorrow night, and we'll think about Houston Thursday.
What is 2 straight wins? How's the locker room different, if at all?
Well, I think wins always give guys a sense of energy and excitement. I wouldn't say it certainly wasn't doom and gloom. They were performing. I think like we said along, you stay pretty even keel in the highs and the lows, but you show metrics, you demonstrate and illustrate how things are actually in a good place. We just got to maximize opportunities with scoring goals and obviously not in letting in goals, but collectively they're in a good spot, and the wins do helps for them validate what the work's looked like over the course of 3-4 months now, but certainly what the last 5 or 6 games have looked like. So good opponents. Again, I think when we think of what this group's looked like against Portland, against Dallas, against Seattle, against New Mexico, against Toronto, it's been pretty strong, and the players are have everything to do with it.
Is it a little easier to get their minds when you went through the month like you went through? Is it easier to get their minds right because of the success you had last year and it's there, as opposed to trying to build off year one, trying to kind of convince everyone that it's there?
Yeah, I think it's a tricky question. It's a tricky way to look at it. I think there's this. We did really well last year, so there's this expectation. There's a real heightened expectation, and we also got to remember we did some unbelievable things last year, some exceptional things. Coming from behind, down 2 goals 5 times doesn't happen often. Winning twice when you're down a guy doesn't happen often. So we did some exceptional things that elevated us in the standings and allowed us to finish where we did, and we were competing at the end with the very best team in the league. But we also have to realize we did some exceptional things, and you can't expect Seba to score 30 goals again, and we hope he does, and you can see when he's not out there, it limits us to some degree, but that's what a collective group is about. Now it's about how do we come together, how do we tinker a little bit in the absence of some of our key players, Diego, Julio, Seba, and still find ways to compete and get through tough moments. And knowing that now when we do that as a group in the tough moments, when we start getting these guys back, hopefully it puts us and sets us up in a space where we're having more success, as you see right now.
Last Tuesday, Giassi hadn't scored yet, and the MLSPA released their salary figures for the whole league. And how to put this nicely, a lot of fans online kind of had a bit of a meltdown about that.
About Giassi?
Yeah, and so I was just curious if there's a coincidence there that sparked his goal form.
Giassi's a goal scorer. He's got 100 goals. We got him on discount, if I'm honest. The fact that he took that salary to come here is he could have doubled that salary inside the league. There's no doubt about it. So we got a player that was hungry to come here and perform. He's a goal scorer. He's 31 years old. He scored 100 goals. He's going to continue to score if he has opportunities. We have lots of players that make good money and need to perform, but that's neither here nor there. They get the contracts that they get based on somewhat performance and coming into the league what they in the league, but it doesn't change your need and desire and to perform. So Giassi's a warrior. The last thing, like I said, his mentality and mental toughness is exceptional. You hope that can bleed into a group and players can understand that. But that's, again, for me, that's one exceptional thing about Giassi, and that's why he's knocking the goals in again.
Good? All right, thanks everyone.